We started a year and a half ago to do ICOs, big time, of course, because then immediately we got the big boys in Storage and Civic and then Monaco, and so that ended on a situation where we did on our first 18 months we did $350 million worth of ICO transactions, and as you see, 250,000 investors used our applications and so our tools to buy the tokens, and we distribute tokens to everybody. So that was a not miracle, but semi-miracle that we didn't get subpoenaed or anything, or none of our clients got subpoenaed from this American breakdown of a SEC when they went after, I think they sent 200 subpoenas. So you know, we did, of course, work well, and nothing went wrong, but it was a time in the history last year when all these things happened, and now when you said that Richard said that regulators are going hard time after us, or after ICOs, it is because when I talked with the Chinese, they said that we haven't seen all the Chinese ICOs, and they were basically 90 to 99% scams. But we don't, like, we saw only the big ones, you know, these what are the Trons and these big China ones, which looks solid to us, but there were like up to everything that we saw, there was like 100 of those that were marketed like crazy in China. So it was natural now that overall it's natural now that the regulators have to take a really hard stance on this, because it is crazy method when a startup can raise that a startup that has never done anything, has 5 to 10 employees, maybe 2 to 5, can raise 30 to 50 million. Of course, that needs to be now then addressed and taken under some sort of a regulation, because it was a surprise to everybody that the market became so big, because it was like a 7 billion last year, and now they're talking together with the Icos and stuff that it's like a 13 billion that have been raised through different kind of ICOs. So in our case, then, good start, and then, 30 ICOs, 350 million, a lot of investors. Website has 165,000 registered users. The difference between the investors and users is that because we have not collected data from the ICO, so that has been strictly, we've been helping the ICOs to collect all the data, but we don't keep that. So we don't have a second database there. Then the big thing that happened 2 weeks ago was that we are based in Gibraltar. Then we have an office in Helsinki where we have a tech team, and then we have another office in London, and we have 35 full-time employees. So the big thing happened in Gibraltar then 2 weeks ago when Gibraltar regulators went out and said that, okay, here are the first, that we have given out first 5, 6 in-principle licenses. And so these are basically, in my knowledge, first European real blockchain regulation that has been now pushed through this year. It came in force on the beginning of the year, and you could then only be an ICO advisor in Gibraltar if you had a legacy business like we did, because we started already last year our advisory. So we now got in-principle license together with 5 other people, and that operation, of course, then taught us massive amount of that, how to really, we already did everything compliant, but now then it's another level with the whole, banking style, 5 years of everything on a record, and then all the security audits and all the penetration tests and everything has been done kind of on a banking level, and not also the small thing is that regulators made us to put in or put on a site 1 million pounds of regulatory capital. So that's like a banking, like an e-money license or exchange level money that we had to put in order to now operate. I think it's a great thing. now there's of course always a chance that we're gonna get over-regulated. So now when all the regulators comes and gets super into this, and they look at the equity crowdfunding, then they might come and now start to do too many things, and that will kill the innovation. I know that in Gibraltar, couple companies pulled away their applications and went to Malta instead because they were like, okay, that's too much work. Because it was really, we had 2 guys working on it, like a senior guys working on it for, I would say, 5 to 7 months, almost full time. And then I talk first a little bit about the ICOs, and then we go to STOs. And so this is basically and I just changed these numbers today because they were outdated. So it used to be last year that, okay, you do 1 month of planning, then you do announcement, you open a pre-sale, 2 weeks, you open an ICO. Now from our last big ICO that we did was now when it closed in June, Autonomy, and that raised 27.8 million from 16,000 investors. So great ICO. We had 50,000 people whitelisted, so they came to the website and whitelisted, gave the basic KYC. That just the KYC cost Autonomy like £65,000 to do the whitelisting. And then when we go down from that, then when we opened the ICO, 25,000 people were on a queue. So we had a ticketing system similar to rock concert tickets. And then people were queuing and they were telling that, okay, you can now participate in, 10 minutes, 50, whatever, 5 minutes, and so forth. And then, so 25,000 on the queue, 16,000 end up investing. So that's like 50,000 whitelisted. So you easily see that how every drop, you lose some people. And so what we do at the Token Market, we do the strategic advisory, which is this whole everything that we have learned over the past year and a half, and that takes, together with the client's massive effort, takes nowadays, so this year, you can really say 3 to 9 months. And then pre-sale, which is another big one, is then at least 1 to 3 months. Now, many of these very good deals as well. So we have 6 deals in the pipeline. They have now about $20 million in on those deals, like combined. And they have basically now, when the summer slump came, they have raised almost nothing. Like it's been super slow. So let's see now, like today was a horrible day on the crypto market. So it's interesting to see that when the market catches up again. So our specialty is that we have a full stack of ICO technology, including all these buying widgets and KYC and AML processes, and then we do all the smart contracts, multi-sig wallet management. We actually hold more keys than the client in order to secure the funds. So, because sometimes client might be the first time handling big amount of money, then we are in charge of that process. So that is what we call like a real ICO advisory. It's not that you put on your LinkedIn profile and say that I'm an ICO advisor, and then so it's a little bit different kind of a task. And then what we ask now from, last year it was a white paper and looks good, you're good to go. Now it is a big process. So we, at the height, we got, in last October, we got 1,000 ICO requests a month. So there was a dog walking ICO and, the coin and stuff like that. So there was weird stuff. But now it has become really like a professional, for everybody that, everybody who approaches us in order, all the clients now comes from the law firms and other partners that we have worked with before. So it's not hardly anyone comes from the info@tokenmarket.net. They all come from the references now, and they really have to have this kind of basics dialed in. And it's not just because we're picky, it's because the market is now so tough, and only the best deals survive. Like that last one was called Tusk. What was it called? Tusk, right? Previous one. That looked good. Like that was that kind of deal that you could support. So first of all, business model. It has to be like a real business plan there, and the business plan cannot be that I do an ICO and then I have a lot of money. People actually come to us and they say that that's their kind of planning of the business. And then token model is the hardest. So this is where, like, so many of these tokens don't make any sense, and then they count on and that they get attraction to their company, and therefore, like, way too easily, that therefore the token is needed. Of course, the best tokens are like something like Ethereum, where it's a gas, and it's, makes full sense. But then there are, as mentioned also on what was it, the banking thing that we had earlier today? Crowdbank, was it? Yeah. So then on that one mentioned that these exchange tokens, they indeed seem to do pretty well. So token model is super important. Of course, you need to have a team. You need to have a tech team on place. So we don't take clients who says that, okay, and then once I have money, then I will hire a CTO, and then I will build all the tech team. Because nobody believes that, like, now the top tech guys, they only go to exciting projects, and you have to have them on board in advance, at least CTO or lead developer. Otherwise, it's a no-go. Like two clever hustlers cannot just now start a company, not at least with our help, or ICO company. Then initial funding. So this has been, when we follow ICO deals, because like on our website we have an ICO calendar that has at the highest had like 800,000 people a month going to look at these ICOs on a website. So there, when we look at these ICOs, then we see that, or when we talk with the people, we often see that one big reason is that they rush to the ICO when they are not ready. They have not, like, created a proper community, because like you need to this, I would say, 10,000 real people, not bots, on 5 to 10,000 on a Telegram, and then you need to have a real traction, real like beginning of a community there, because last year everybody bought to ICOs because every token went up. Like our 350 million of issuance was last Christmas time. It was the trading volume. The trading valuation, the market cap was 4.2 billion, and it traded over 200 million a day, those tokens. So imagine it was our tokens that we issued traded twice as much as AIM market in London, which is the second biggest stock market in London. So of course, that was a very special time then, and now. Now the ones that will do well, back to the point that they need to have a money. Every time they rush, they don't have a community. They rush to do an ICO. Then what happens is that they end up failing because people don't put the money in on a deal before they first believe on a community. Is basically the main point. And then legal advice. So you have to have a law firm, and you have to have a top law firm. That's also another problem that I've seen on ICOs, that people then, I know a lawyer who will do this for me for free, and they never done an ICO, and they actually don't know what they do at all, and they end up just wasting a lot of time, and then they go to some of these good law firms. There's tons of them now that have done many ICOs. And they can then help tremendously, and also keep you out of jail, which is good. So before, I think everybody knows this, but I just want to make sure that because now everybody talks about STOs. So before, the app tokens are app tokens because they are exemptions to securities law. And so, of course, like in-game currency, like if you play World of Warcraft or something, those, what are they called, guldens or something, they are, of course, exemption to securities law, but now they can easily be turned into the tokens, and they can be tradable. Same, air miles, loyalty programs, closed-loop payment system, like when you go to amusement park and you buy tickets at the door, and then you can use them on a ride. and you always end up with a few extra tickets. These are all exemptions, software license. And then when this law was created that they are exemptions, of course they never imagined that there would be a market that trades, what is that now, 20 billion, okay, Bitcoin being 50%, 70% of that, but anyway, this is probably 5 to 10 billion a day trades all kinds of altcoins. So of course they never thought about that when they created these exemptions, and that's why now they then have to jump on a game in America and say that all app tokens, they consider them now basically securities. And of course, app token as a security, it's like a shitty, security. It's like, it doesn't have any of these benefits that normally you have on a security in a way. So there comes the security token offerings. We've been thinking about this now for well before we even started TokenMarket, and it's always was the goal that, of course, the smaller companies and so forth need to have a liquidity, and now then the ICO market even confirmed that more to us, because the fact is that most of the businesses don't have a token model for app token, so they should not, so many people are now trying to really force and create these ridiculous tokens. So the solution for that, of course, is that then the next generation of ICOs are STOs or whatever they're going to be then called, already starting, vaguely starting, but they're going to be real equity on a company. So it's kind of equity crowdfunding 2.0. So we have now applied, and we are now on a sandbox in London with the FCA, the regulator there, for tokenized equity crowdfunding. So we're now in a pipeline of launching first equity crowdfunding deals that will be tokenized. And as I don't know if you've seen the news, then also they're planning now to come up with the European-wide equity crowdfunding laws, and that would make that then the limit will go from today 5 million to 8 million euros. So that's already a pretty good deal. When you think of it, most of the startups should be fine by doing 8 million euro security, share offering. I think that's great. So that might be one way to do it. And then, of course, the royalty, or Pavel from Distributed Labs was posting that this very clever thing of revenue participation note. I've never heard it before he posted about that, but it's basically a promise to give from the top level of your company's revenues. For example, you promise to give 5% of revenues until you've given back 1.5 times of the note, or 7 years or something. So there's pretty clever, these kind of alternative securities or alternative asset types that can be converted. So I think people will come up with many of those that can be then converted now to the tokenized world. And of course, mini bonds are great, but they don't work for early startup, because you cannot issue a bond, at least with us, that if you are not cash flow positive. So if you make money, then you can probably pay that interest and pay it back. So you cannot use bond to finance seed finance the company. And then of course property rights. We're now working in Dubai on an 85 million tokenizing, a huge commercial building, and then that will be a kind of a fractional ownership of that property and pay dividend type of a thing. So I think that this is super exciting, and therefore then we have developed over the past year the first framework now on Ethereum. Of course, we're looking at the EOS. There's been now a few of EOS these developer conferences and meetups, and we always send a guy there. But now we're working on Ethereum to come up with a proper framework of how to do this stuff. It's kind of like what we learned last year on ICOs. Now continue to do ICOs. So I don't think that people say that ICOs are dead. I don't believe in that. ICOs will be just, they need to be super high quality, like these EOCs and EOCs, Binances, and Ethereums of the world. So then the key features, what makes it challenging on a STOs. There's many more of these, so we can talk about that then later today. But of course, there's a accreditation of investors who buy in. Like that's a very specific thing on investment world. Then the payouts. How do you do the payouts? How do you push that? You need a stable coin, as today was earlier talked. There needs to be a stable coin so that you can easily push companies' dividends or interest or whatever payout it is back to the users. Because the only other way to do it is now that you take an Ethereum spot price and you send it. Of course, you have to send it on Ethereum, and you send it on then whatever is the day's rate. Then shareholder votings. There has to be a lock-ins for management, so that the management cannot flip the tokens, advisors, initial shareholders, whatever is the reason. And that's, of course, great on a blockchain, because all these can then be transparent. So it's going to be much more easier to manage kind of these things on a company's governance with the proper smart contracts and proper systems. Then tag along and drag along means that okay, what happens if I now sell a company? Then you have to have a rule that, okay, if 80% of shareholders agree that company is sold, we have to have a system that we can get back the remaining 20% tokens. Otherwise, we're waiting for 2 years people to send tokens back, or the tokens are lost or whatever. So there needs to be a way to void those or then fetch them back. And then, of course, dispute management, if any of that kind of things rises. So overall, the whole, then added here, then the secondary market trading, which is a massive challenge. But let's talk about that. That's a proper nightmare. So here, first thing is that generally there is no such a thing as a retail global offering now. Like when Tesla goes public, what happens there is Tesla goes public in NASDAQ, and then broker dealers around the world goes and sells it. So you have a broker dealer network, and each broker dealer have then confirmed that these clients are KYC'd and AML'd to buy Tesla shares. So now we're thinking that there will be suddenly brave new world where then I can do a securities offering to the whole wild world, everybody, just like ICO. That is currently, we think it's completely impossible, because that would require massive flexibility from the regulators. But that will change. Like we're working to change that, and I think there's some really good ideas. And of course, then, as today, all the STOs that have happened are for accredited investors. Accredited investors in America means that you have a 250,000 income or 1 million in assets. So that then takes the game away again from this ICO was a cool thing because everybody can invest. But now we suddenly hit again on the market where just the rich people can invest. And that's kind of a bummer if we let it go that way. And then, as a final thing, then the secondary market trading. How are we with the time?
Not finished.
Oh, we're done.
If you can
okay, yeah, that's, okay, done. Yes, exactly. Yeah, so this is good. So then the secondary market trading, if I just explain that in 30 seconds, that is where then it really gets tricky, because people talk about these MTF and in America MTF in Europe is multilateral trading facility. That's like a EU-wide, and then ATS is in America, and AMI, for example, in Dubai. Then those are never investor direct, so you cannot just create an account and start trading. They are always through the brokerage firms, and so it's just creating that tokenized security token. But I can come then in a few months and talk about that here again. Yeah. So that's, so this is what we're doing. So we're launching an exchange, opening a broker-dealer place in Dubai, and then that sandbox that I mentioned earlier. Done.
Questions?
Thanks.
We have time for maybe one or two quick questions for Ransu.
Thanks for the talk. Could I ask you, from a regulatory standpoint, what is your position like? We see that Switzerland is being challenged with being the heaven for ICOs. You see Malta, you see Gibraltar. But now basically they're coming out and they're saying, well, we might create this other class which is going to be like for fintechs, which are, don't need to go through the whole AML, KYC, CDD, and so on. Do you think that this is, this can be potentially, well, it is jurisdictional arbitrage, regulatory arbitrage, but is this a positive thing or is it a negative thing?
No, Switzerland is a great jurisdiction. The challenge there is that normally how you operate there is that you go first to the regulators or any official tax authorities, for example. All the ICOs, they go to tax authorities to get in advance, just like Formula One, stars who live there. They all go in advance to them and ask for great tax treatment. And then they sign basically that one. The regulator signs that off and gives you a rubber stamp, and then you clear. They never, go back. So that's why they've been now slow on they cannot anymore approve ICOs like this, because there's a 4 months queue of everybody wanting to do it, and they're very careful with their rubber stamps because they are so precious. So.
Yeah, but at the same time they're giving the way for unregulated ICO. Well, not unregulated, but basically not unregulated, but basically if you skip the AML KYC, then you get the upper hand.
They will never let that happen, that they have to have KYC. KYC and AML has to happen. So KYC and AML has to happen big time on everything, because before that, that crypto is not bankable. So now we have an approval from Gibraltar banks that if you do an ICO the way that we do it on a KYC, you can convert those Ethereum into the dollars and euros and pounds and put them in the bank. And that's the problem, that if you drop the KYC, so that cannot happen.
So let's move on to the last question.
But it might be super light KYC. That's what I think it is, a super light one, like a gaming level.
Okay, I have one question. You mentioned that ICOs are not dead, but there's still space for these really high quality ICOs, like you mentioned, like Ethereum or EOS. I think one of the true innovations of the ICO space is that anyone can invest in anything. And I think that there is also space for high quality ICOs that are small. It doesn't have to be like a multi-billion-dollar idea.
That is true.
What about really small ICOs or people who have a smart business or a smart idea and they want funding, but they don't go for 10 billion, but just like maybe 10,000? How does that work?
No, that is, well, then that's too small for a token to be exciting on a tradable. So so you're right about this thing. So this is an important point. We are now telling everybody to cut half at least on their ICO money streams, because that is look at all these big deals, how they have ended up trading. Basically, all the biggest deals have traded afterwards terribly because everybody has been flipping. So the size of the ICOs, I think that there's a good sweet spot now between 2 million to 10 million range. If you do a high quality product, that is then you have enough community still buying it, and then there's enough interest that you can get it on. If it's super tiny, it will have no interest on the exchanges afterwards. And you still want to have both. You want to have hodl investors, and you want to have a traders, because that's always what makes the markets. Cool.
Thank you, Ransu.
Thanks.